This information is coming from the oil men themselves, one of the elite, a person that knows what's going on. You don't necessarily get this from the media. In fact, you won't get hardly any of this with the media. Now, this 25 to 30,000 feet deep is on the edge of human technology. Nobody but Russia had ever tried something this catastrophic. Now, when BP got to that depth, and we're not quite sure exactly how much there was because something happened that they didn't expect. BP hit something so catastrophic and unexpected that they could not contain it. Now, you have to understand oil pressures when we get to something like this. They hit a strata of oil at such high pressure that it burst all of their safety valves. Now, let me try to explain. The oil men have gone on to explain to me the number of safety valves that they put on a drill rig and on the pipe that goes into the ground in order to assure that nothing happens like has happened in the Gulf of Mexico. All of those precautionary measures were in place. BP had done everything correctly. This, I want to say up front, what has happened in the Gulf of Mexico, in all honesty, I'm trying to say this, and I know some of you will have to say, I'm going to do a lot of investigation before I believe it, but please believe me, from all of the reliable sources that I can contact, BP did not intend this thing to blow out. This is not a conspiracy. This is not something that they did intentionally. They hit a strata of oil at such high pressure that it burst all of their safety valves. The pressure behind this oil is so high right now, flowing in the Gulf of Mexico, that it destroyed the maximum efforts of human science to contain it. Now, let me go back to Prudhoe Bay for a minute and bring up some personal experience. When I was at Prudhoe Bay on America's big Alaska oil field, I had the privilege of being the chaplain for 3 years to the elite of the world. I had been offered executive status, and as a result was requested to sit in on board meetings in an advisory capacity in order to help the relationship between management and labor. Because of that, I saw many things that the average person did not see, even things that the oil workers themselves did not see, because I had been given a pass that allowed me to go any place I wanted to, anytime I wished, and even sat in on the board meetings with the people you hear about in the World Bank and the IMF. I watched many oil wells brought in the course of my 3 years at Prudhoe Bay. Now, remember that there were two things every time a new oil well was brought in that they would give immediately. First of all, they would check the flow rate. That means how much oil is coming out of that pipe at full force in 1 hour, in 1 day, in a 24-hour period, however they wanted to check it. They call it flow rate. The second thing that they would always give is the pressure of the oil well. Now, in the Gulf of Mexico, BP oil, have you heard the media say anything about the pressure of that well? No, nobody has. It is unmentionable. That is the one thing that they have left out of every newscast, out of every report. They have refused. I have not heard anything whatsoever about the wellhead pressure on that well. Why? If the average individual, even if Congress knew what BP had hit, they would be shaking in their shoes today. The Gulf of Mexico oil gusher that BP hit, nowhere. You keep finding it, and if you ever do, please let me know the pressure of the well. Now, let me go back to Prudhoe Bay again. Prudhoe Bay, Alaska oil wells normally were in the neighborhood of 1,500 PSI. That's pounds per square inch of oil pressure, and that was artesian pressure. Let's compare that to something. The tire on your automobile, it has 35 pounds per square inch of pressure. A truck tire on the big rigs that run down the road are somewhere between 100 and 110 pounds per square inch. A reliable source estimated to me that the British Petroleum Gulf of Mexico oil well head pressure was, now folks, you're going to find this staggering. This is beyond anything that human science has encountered before. And write these figures down, because when they eventually come out, you will know why they cannot stop that pressure, they cannot stop that well. With every method they've tried so far, they have not been able to do it. I'm not saying they won't at some point in the future, but they have used every trick of the trade to try to stop it, and they can't do it so far. The pressure on that British Petroleum oil well in the Gulf of Mexico is estimated to be between 20,000 and 70,000 pounds per square inch. PSI is what the scientists would call it. Now, comparing that to a tire that has 35 pounds and a truck tire with 100 pounds, 20 to 70,000 pounds per square inch. This is beyond human technology to contain it. Now, there are many safety devices on a well. It blew them all. Everything. When they hit that strata, there was nothing they could do about it. A BP informant said BP had made one horrible mistake. Now, you've never heard this on the news media, and one of these days they'll be forced to bring it out. There's only one mistake that BP had made. Everything else was in place. They'd done everything right so far. But they had made one drastic mistake, and whether it would have held or not is questionable, because of the pressure of that well. On the wellhead, or on the well pipe, was what is called a fail-safe valve. That's F-A-I-L-S-A-F-E. Oil men will recognize this. A fail-safe valve. The foreman on the platform, on BP's platform, before the explosion, had a conversation with one of the workers. And the worker said to the foreman, sir, the fail-safe valve is damaged. We need to replace it before we go any further. The foreman said, nope, can't do it. Let's keep drilling. Let's go and prove this well. And they did not replace the damaged fail-safe valve. It might have held, but more than likely, with the extreme pressures that they encountered, which they never expected, more than likely the fail-safe valve would have blown along with all of the other security measures that they had. The Gulf of Mexico oil well is flowing. Are you ready now for the next figure? Presently. As of today, the Gulf of Mexico oil well is flowing 1 to 4 million gallons a day. Now, that's conservative. I have lowered that figure from what some oil men told me. Nobody really knows how much, because they were not able to check the flow rate because it had blown the platform up above. So somewhere in the neighborhood to 4 million gallons a day. Now comes the big question, and I literally have a question mark beside this. Will BP be able to stop the flow of oil? I'll attempt to answer this to the best that I can gather. My first expression would be, I hope so. For the sake of human beings and animals and pristine beaches and the fish and the many people who are going to lose their entire lives profession, such as the fishermen fishing in the Gulf and others, I hope to goodness they're able to stop this well before long. I hope to goodness they're able to stop this well before long. Many methods have been tried. Every method to date has failed. An authority said to me, one of my Mr. X's said to me, the only hope left is a nuclear device, but, and he put a big but there. Let me try to explain. In order to stop a well that has blown every safety precaution that they have, how do you